Rotation during early game can be figured out before the game starts. In this video, I will teach you 4 different ways to rotate, based on the information you have during the draft and loading screen, and explain when to rotate each way, so you know how to rotate for your specific match. Alright, so the first way in the early game is where you help your jungle take the buffs. You can help him take the first buff, but if the mage is helping him, you can prepare the other buff to avoid more damage reduction on the jungle. After that, the jungler will be level 4 faster than if they were alone, and be able to gank a lane faster with you than the enemy normally would expect. But if the gank fails, try to predict and camp the enemy jungler, as you guys are faster to arrive there. If you and your team take out the enemy jungler, and your own jungler has retribution ready, you can take the turtle without you. Meanwhile he does that, rotate and try to gank somewhere else on the map. However, only do this if you're 100% sure your jungler can secure the turtle without you. If it's still risky, he's low health or doesn't have retribution, then zone for him instead. After that, you should then let the jungler do his own thing, where you instead stick with the mage and you guys rotate together. You should rotate the first way when 1. The enemy have heroes such as Franco, Hilda, Hylos, Valor, Hanzo, Natalia, or Novaria that can either invade or steal the buffs. 2. Your jungler is weak as level 1, such as Ling, Fanny, or Granger. You don't want to risk Fanny or Ling losing their blue buff, as that could cost the early game. 3. You want your jungler to reach level 4 faster and safer. Okay, the second way to rotate in the early game is where you start off by helping your mid laner clear the wave. Most mid lane heroes such as Luo E, Kagura, Valentina, and Lunox are slow at clearing the wave in the early game, and by the time they clear their wave, another wave will appear, and then they won't be able to rotate unless they sacrifice minions. Rotating this way is important when you want your mage to not only remain on mid lane, as you would struggle to solo gank, and if your jungler is a tank jungler, you and your team will struggle even more. This way of rotating is where you constantly stick with the mid laner from the very beginning to later on. You should rotate with your mid laner towards the side where your jungler is taking the second buff, so he isn't likely to lose his buff if they try to invade. You should rotate the second way when 1. Your jungler is a tank jungler such as Fredrin, Akai, Bashia, or Tank Lancelot. They're fine with being alone and can't get invaded easily. 2. Your mage is slow at clearing the wave. 3. You want your mage to gank. The third way to rotate in the early is where you start by cutting minion wave with your EXP laner for level 2. This is where you wait with buying roam boots to get level 2, and is the best way to rotate when your jungler and mage are fine by themselves, meaning the mage can clear fast alone and the jungler isn't afraid to get invaded or get his buff stolen. Not only do you get faster level 2, but you can decide to invade after clearing, if you and EXP lane have strong early. After level 2, you can start by stealing the enemy's green jungle with the EXP laner, but only take it if you have enough damage or if your EXP laner follows. If you can invade with your EXP laner, try to force the enemy jungler to use retribution on his buff, and then retreat and not overstay. That way, your team can get the Litho Wanderer easier, or invade his second buff with your team, where he doesn't have retribution. You should rotate the third way when 1. You and the EXP Lano have strong early as level 2, such as your hero is Grok, Hylos, Kufra, or Hilda, and the EXP laner is Terizla, Uranus, Khalid, Exborg, Edith, or Yujon. 2. Your jungler and mage can solo by themselves. 3. You want to apply pressure to the enemy jungler. However, if the enemies are high ranked, they might know and camp you, and then this way of rotating shouldn't be used. The fourth way to rotate in the early is where you start by invading the enemy jungler as level 1, in order to delay or make him use retribution. You can invade the jungler when their roam is weak or away from the jungler. You still need map awareness, in case their allies come, but the goal is to delay the enemy jungler as much as possible, to give your own jungler a chance to farm a higher level for upcoming turtle teamfight for stronger retribution. If the other enemies come, then retreat and stick with your mage. You should rotate the fourth way when 1. Your hero is a strong early game hero like Hilda, Edith, Grok, and Hylos. 2. The enemy jungler is a weak level 1 hero such as Granger, Ling, Hayabusa, and Gusion. Fanny is weak as level 1 too, but don't risk it because you're screwed if she uses retribution on their blue buff and is level 2. 3. The other enemies are weak or decent as level 2. 4. You want to slow down enemy jungler. A thing I want to mention that applies to all these rotations is that you don't have to only rotate, and instead can cut the enemy's rotation by camping them in order to get a kill before an upcoming turtle or to prevent your fighter or marksman from getting ganked. Another tip that you can apply, but needs teamwork with your mage, is to get the mage to rotate and clear the EXP lane wave with the EXP laner, while you clear the 4th incoming minion wave on mid lane alone, to reach level 4 before the first turtle team fight. That way you have level 4 for turtle fight, while the enemy roam doesn't.